Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I am so excited for this week's video. We are having a frugal high tea, Great Britain style, in honor of Mike's 34th birthday that's coming up this Monday. I'm shooting this on Saturday before. So because he works on Monday, we are celebrating today. He's working on a gift that I bought him. It is a basically knockoff Lego set of a sword from Lord of the Rings, and we are going to recreate a classic British high tea, but we're trying to save money when doing it. So things that usually go in a classic British high tea are going to be obviously the tea, and then you have sausage rolls, usually finger sandwiches. There's like cream cheese and cucumber, and then there's always some sort of tuna salad, egg salad, something like that. And then scones. That's the last piece of it. So we are going to go through the motions of making everything for the high tea, and then we'll see what he thinks at the end of this video. The first thing I'm going to start is the blueberry scones. So we are using a pre-made blueberry muffin mix. And there's a modified recipe on the back to make wild blueberry scones, because that's what he requested. The recipe calls for 1 package of this muffin mix. It has 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 cup or 1 stick of cold butter, which I checked with Alexa. I asked, and it turns out, even though the recipe just says cold butter, it's preferred to use unsalted butter for scones. Then I have heavy cream. There's a 1/2 cup and 2 tablespoons later on. 2 eggs and 1 can of blueberries, which is enclosed in the mix for the muffins. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is preheat the oven to 350 so that that's nice and hot and we don't have to worry about that. My oven's pretty easy because it's set to 350 automatically when I turn it on. And then I'm going to get a bowl and mix the dry ingredients first. So the recipe calls to whisk all these dry ingredients together, and then you're going to cut in the butter. This is my stick of unsalted butter. It's been chilled and it's already been cubed. It was cold beforehand, and then I chilled it again just because it started to warm up on my fingers. And basically what we're looking for is we're going to combine the butter with all the dry ingredients until it kind of becomes like mixed in evenly but not totally melted. It's going to look like it's going to look crumbly. That's basically the way. That's how you get those nice pastries that are super flaky and buttery, is you're mixing this like cold butter in. I did read something that you could cut it, meaning literally chop it up to mix the butter. So maybe I can take my cutting tool. Hold on, let me see if I can get that. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I saw something online that said you can also use this to cut in the butter, because supposedly this cuts the butter. Ah, it does. Okay, so this is flat and I'm using a round bowl, so that's not going to work. Because basically what I'm doing is I'm cutting the butter. Physically cutting the butter. That makes so much sense now. Doy. Somebody's going to be watching this like, what are you talking about, you lunatic? All right, this is the best way to do it then. Physically cut the butter. Okay, so I would either recommend using a rounder cutting utensil or a wider bowl so that you can cut it on the bottom of the bowl, because I'm having to pick it up and cut it. And you're going to get little tiny pieces of butter all in here, mixed in nicely, so that when you make them, it's nice and buttery and flaky. I could be on Great British Baking Show. That looks pretty good. You're looking for like pea-size portions of the butter throughout the flour, mixing it all in nicely so there's not too many big chunks. But you don't want the butter to melt. That's the key. Okay, now that I understand how to cut in the butter, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I've never been good with the pastries. I always feel like I end up melting butter when I'm not supposed to melt butter. But basically what you're trying to do is cut the butter pieces down so that you have this nice, flour mixture that has, dry mixture that has these small pellets of butter like throughout. And I read it should be like pea-sized. So some of these I could maybe split in half. It's much easier than I thought. So So once that is all set, the next step is going to be to whisk half a cup of cream and the eggs together and add that to the dry mix. So we're going to set aside the dry bowl and grab another one. We can use a smaller bowl for this. Oh, that's my oven. It's preheated. Have you ever heard of a garbage bowl? So apparently there's such thing. Rachel Ray has a literal line of garbage bowls. And it's a bowl where you just put your trash as you're cooking so that you don't have to go back and forth to the trash can, which is, by the way, right next to me, so it wouldn't be a big deal. Turns out I bought one of those garbage bowls. And I didn't even know that I owned one. I saw it on TikTok. People were like, I want the Rachel Ray garbage bowl. And then other people were like, you could just use a regular bowl. So this is the actual bowl that was, I guess, marketed as a garbage bowl. And I checked the bottom and it says, Rachel Ray, 100% melamine, not for use in microwave, top rack dishwasher safe. So this is supposed to be like, you put it here, you throw all your trash, all your discard, if you're like cutting fruit and vegetables, like anything that needs to go in the trash, it's the garbage bowl, so you don't need to go back and forth, which is great. I was definitely just using this for regular recipes. I didn't know it was a designated garbage bowl, but kind of neat. I picked it up at a secondhand shop in like Colorado when we were on our RV trip last year. All right, half a cup of heavy cream. Wow, I totally almost just started pouring that in with no measurement. Half cup, which I guess I should have used a liquid measuring cup, but it's all the same, honestly. Combine until blended, fold in the blueberries, and then with floured hands, shape it into a disc. And then you're basically gonna cut that disc and place them 2 inches apart, and then you're gonna bake it. Yeah, that's gonna require floured hands. That's not gonna be done with a whisk. All right, we gotta get this out of here. I like pastries. I like making things with my hands. I know some people don't. Obviously, I washed my hands before this, guys. Doy. Didn't think I have to tell people that, but sometimes online, you know how it is. I'm just going to use my hand here. So we're getting a nice sticky dough right now. If you ever have sticky fingers when you're baking, if you put flour on both your hands and then you rub them together, it tends to rub everything off. Okay. There you go, that's fine. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. So I have like all this excess flour at the bottom of the bowl that I just want to get mixed in with everything else well. So you see how that's coming together? Like that. The only thing I'm missing is that at the bottom there's some stuff that needs to get like combined. Perfect. Okay, so now this is combined and we're gonna fold in the blueberries is what it says. But I do have to drain and rinse them. So basically I have to fold in the blueberries and then I have to shape it into a disc, brush that with cream, cut it into slices, and then spread it out on the baking sheet. So I might, to make this easier, get a piece of parchment paper to lay down here so that when I do that next step after the blueberries, I can just, it's already there and it's not getting my cutting board wet and dirty. And I am smart and I made sure to save some parchment paper from previous baking. So there you go, reuse it. Reduce, reuse, recycle. There's really not that many blueberries in this thing. It's probably like half a cup. So fold those in. Oh, that's wet. Oh, that's wet and messy. Oh my gosh. Fold in with floured hands, shape the dough into an 8-inch disc. Yeah, well now it's all wet, so I need to flour my hands. Wow. Let me show you what this looks like. All right, so this is what it looks like all laid out. I flattened it out a bit. You can see the bits of butter in there, which is kind of neat. And it's pretty well distributed with the blueberries. So now I have to brush it with 2 tablespoons of cream, cut it into 8 triangles, and then place those 2 inches apart on the baking sheet. I'm gonna use this little bowl for the cream, and honestly, I'm not gonna measure out two tablespoons. I'm just gonna, that's fine, because all we're doing is brushing the top to give it a little bit of, honestly, Mike has probably used this brush more than me for like meats and seasonings and things for his cooking. I have this massive baking pan that fits, basically it is the entire width of my oven, and it's much easier to maneuver and use than like a smaller pan. It just gives me that extra space. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this up and place it over there. I'll have to move you because I can't do it on this counter. See, this makes it much easier to cut them because I have it already on a parchment paper and it's not sticking to my cutting board. Good idea, Gabby. Sometimes I have good ideas. Okie dokie. Little complicated, but it's okay. We got this. Come on, baby. Okay. Pro tip, probably put a little bit of flour down beforehand because the bottom is super wet and it's getting messy. Okay, there we go. They're getting a little squished. It's okay. Perfect. So now these are going to go in for 25 to 30 minutes. I'm going to do 28. I usually just decide to bake right down the middle, so we'll put it in for about 28 minutes, and while it's baking, I will clean up this kitchen, and then we'll get started on our next batch of snacks for high tea. All right, so our scones are out and they look fantastic. And now up next, we have to make our sausage rolls. And we are just using the Bread and Basket ShopRite brand of pigs in a blanket. It's the closest thing and it was the least expensive and the easiest thing to throw together considering how many different elements of this high tea that we have to create. So while the scones cool, I'm gonna change the temperature setting on the oven, put the pigs in a blanket in. Mike has already made the tuna salad for one of the sandwiches, and then the second sandwich is going to be the cream cheese and cucumber. So once I put the pigs in a blanket in, I will go ahead and wash and cut that cucumber to get it ready to make the first set of finger sandwiches. And honestly, the next time I make this kind of recipe for these scones, I will definitely cut these in half because 8 pieces is absolutely massive scones. You could probably have these and make 16 more bite-sized pieces. I was thinking we were actually going to make these with the little like crescent rolls from Pillsbury and then just roll up the mini weenies they come in like a big pack in the packaged meat section. But Mike was like, easier this way. Plus these have a different flavor when they're already made versus trying to roll those together. I don't know. When it's your birthday, you get whatever you want. And if you can hear it in the background, you can hear that he's watching Lord of the Rings. Hopefully this doesn't get copyrighted. I guess it's better to do less and then we can always make more later if we want versus having too many. So I think I'm gonna make 2 of each sandwich because then you cut them into 4 and they're like little tiny finger sandwiches. I think that should be enough for now. And we can always make more later. Piggies are going in. I don't have enough room on the counter over here to be able to show you like up close, but I found a couple of trays, so we'll just make it work with what we got. This is where I think pre-Frugal and trying to pay off debt, I would have been like, we need a different tray. Like we need a tray that can stack us on top of each other. And, oh, one of those, I'll put a picture of it here. You know what I'm talking about. One of those like fancy serving dishes. Like for what? For one day of the year and then never use it again and it collects dust somewhere in my house. I picked this one up at a secondhand shop. I don't remember if it was Restore Habitat for Humanity or where I got it. I don't know if anybody else here ate cream cheese with saltines as a kid. That was like one of my favorite like cheap snacks. I was usually only allowed to eat it if I was homesick. Why? I don't know. Because my mother was worried about my health. Rightfully so. I don't know what's in these things. So I'm just going in and I'm putting a layer of cream cheese on each of the slices of bread. And we're going to put cucumbers in the middle. And then I have to cut all of the crust off. But instead of doing it in 4s, just do it in 2s. right, so here are the cucumber and cream cheese finger sandwiches. I only cut one into quarters and the rest are halved because the quarters were kind of falling apart as I made the second cut. Now I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing with the tuna salad that Mike made. And then the pigs in a blanket should be ready any minute. I'm just gonna turn off the oven, but keep them in there to keep them warm. And we'll get the table ready. And we will have a great high tea for Mike's birthday. So the one thing we don't have is a regular teapot. We have like a kettle, like an electric kettle. So I do have to put the water on to heat it up. And then we'll have individual cups of tea. And we'll keep the rest of that hot in case we want more. But so far, this is looking amazing. You'll be surprised how fast this water boils, so I'll be back when we're ready to serve everything. Check it out. That is true high tea. We've got our scones. We've got our sausage rolls, Americanized sausage rolls. We've got our mini sandwiches, our finger sandwiches, the cream cheese and cucumber, and then we have the tuna salad sandwich. And then, of course, our tea.
Thanks, baby.
Oh, you already have a cup?
Oh, yeah. So I'll double dip.
Happy birthday.
Thanks.
Alexa, play British high tea music.
Elegant melodies for sophisticated afternoon tea service on Amazon Music.
Here we go. Toast. Cheerio.
Choo choo. Chin chin.
Those are some big old scones.
This is hot. Yeah, they are. They're huge.
I don't think I've had, I guess the only time I've ever done no crust on a sandwich was literally the high tea.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a kid, I don't think I ever cared. The crust was always like fine.
Good job. You don't get any. You can't
I
have
gave
any.
him a little bit of tuna already.
Oh my goodness. That about covers it. We're going to enjoy the rest of Mike's birthday. I'll see you next week.